Our news review now. This morning I'm joined, as you can see, by podcaster and broadcaster Gemma Forte and presenter and writer Matthew Stadland. Thanks so much for your company this Sunday. Really appreciate it. Should we kick off, Gemma, with... This is page 2 of The Mirror. Amanda Acaster, political correspondent, also been talking about this, but their headline, 86 billion boost to tech. From the government. 86 billion.
I know. We were looking at that figure quite amazed.
I said it wouldn't be all at once, didn't I?
It isn't all at once. It's over a number of years, and it's a segment of a broader £113 billion capital investment package. Now, this is for research and development, but that overall package also covers things like housing, transport and energy. But it is spending. I mean, like, everybody is pretty sick of austerity, and apparently for every £1 that you put into research and development, you do end up with 7 back. There's a similar stat with the NHS. For every pound you put in, you get 4 back. You know, you have a healthy sort of economy, literally. And with this, similarly, it's going to be a lot of stimulus. And one thing that's being really hailed as a very good thing is that local leaders are going to be quite empowered to use the money and to have a big say in that, which is a real positive.
And actually a sign...
Actual levelling up.
A sign of a confident government, despite their troubles in the polls. And at the moment, I think they are deeply unpopular. That may change. But the fact that they are prepared for local leaders to decide how this money actually gets allocated, I think is quite impressive.
Yes.
I hope it works. I hope the local leaders allocate it in the best ways possible. One of the things that I think you can fairly criticise the last government for, the last 14 years before Labour came into power, is a lack of investment. We all know about austerity, but interest rates were low for a while, and that government, I think, chronically underinvested in infrastructure and quite possibly in technology and science. And this is long-term thinking, but it is being backed up by hard cash, it seems.
Yeah, we'll be hearing from Peter
And it
Carl
covers a lot of things, drug discovery, biotech, etc.
OK, well, that's hopeful. Let's see what Peter Carl says to Trevor Phillips on Sunday morning with Trevor Phillips a bit later. Let's move on to the front page of The Times, Matthew. Children's jabs for deadly diseases slumped to the lowest level in a decade. What's going on here, do you think?
So we know there's an anti-vax movement out there. We know that they shout very loudly, online in particular. What I wasn't quite as aware of is just the extent to which this is having real-world implications. And the number of children, very simply, being vaccinated against routine diseases, so including measles, including whooping cough, is too low, really, or worryingly low anyway, and it seems to have been going down. And there was a stat towards the end of this article that I found fascinating, which is that anti-vaccine sentiment has risen really significantly since the vaccine rollout. So when the vaccine rollout took place, I think 14% of people in this country thought that there were harmful effects of vaccines that were being hidden from us. And now that number, according to a YouGov polling of 2,000 adults, has risen to 34%.
Yeah.
But you can understand more people having reservations about a jab that's new and that, you know, it hasn't been tried and tested, but to conflate it with the MMR is a real worry, specifically because we did eliminate measles back, I think it was 2016, you know, it had gone, and now it's on the rise again.
And it's under 95%, which is the figure that is recommended, I think, by the World Health Organization for some of these jabs. So vaccination rates for the 6-in-1 vaccine, that dropped in England from 89% in 2014 to 83% last year for children. I mean, that's considerably below 95%. And for MMR, rates have fallen from 88% to 84%. All I can say, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not an expert, but I am a parent of 2 young children, and I absolutely have and will continue to be, along with my wife, having them jabbed.
Yeah, there's a red line for me, I think. If you're an adult and you want to not take a vaccine for, say, COVID, that's your choice.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to babies and those vital vaccines,
and all of that, that Andrew Wakefield brouhaha was completely discredited, and the uptake did increase again, and now,
And the danger here is that by not vaccinating your own children, it's not just having an impact on them, but it's having an impact on other people's children as well. It's, of course, a sensitive subject for some, but I am completely behind jabbing children.
We're seeing on just the left of our screen there, it's the latest from Los Angeles, and just in the last few minutes, President Trump saying from now on masks will not be allowed to be worn at any kind of protest. I know that we're doing the paper review, but this is a developing story that's happening now. The pictures of protesters turning up, looting shops, and the police standing off with these crowds too. It's one of those stories that you can't not talk about.
Well, it's because of ICE, who literally have been taking people out of their homes, and it has been very a broad brushstroke, shall we say, in that, you know, when they took a load of people off to El Salvador, some of them were, you know, there was absolutely no reason for them to be dragged off like that. And so in the people of LA, a bit of sort of people power, are showing a bit of civil unrest. But he's very authoritarian. He's sending the feds in.
We might disagree slightly on, or maybe fundamentally on masks, I don't know. But I find masks at demonstrations threatening.
So you're broadly in agreement with Donald Trump on that one, then?
Very unusually. But why do I find them threatening? Partly just the visuals, and partly also because they anonymise, and that's the reason people wear masks at those sorts of demonstrations. And by the way, I am fully behind our right to protest. I defend it very, very strongly. For example, I've defended the right of people to demonstrate about Palestine when that was coming under massive attack from elements of the right-wing media. However, I think if you go to a demonstration, which should be your right and is your right in this country, do it without a face mask.
I don't feel we have to here, but I feel that that's where it's got to with the Trump regime, if you like, that if your face is spotted, you may just be dragged away with no real rationale behind it. So I agree with you that the look of them is sinister, but so is the authoritarian approach that's happening over in the States.
OK, people can scan the QR code if they want to take a look at the story developing there, the live pictures from Los Angeles. We're going to go back to the papers here. And the Sunday Telegraph, Gemma, the NHS to rely on migrants as nurses' training is cut.
Yeah, so, I know. I mean, you've got all this push and pull, the constant speculation over immigration and numbers, et cetera, and the bottom line is, when it comes to nursing, I would say most of the workforce in the NHS are probably migrants from various places, and this is a worry, you know, and it's twofold. It's because the universities don't have the funding, they're making huge budget cuts, so they're cutting these courses, but the reason they've zoned in on those courses is because there's not a huge demand for them, which is sad.
I think two things could be true at the same time. Our NHS would completely collapse if you were to take foreign workers out of it at the moment, and indeed, of course, the children of immigrants, of which there are millions and millions of us in this. But at the same time, I do think the government should be investing, we talked about investment earlier, in science and tech, should be investing in people, and it is ridiculous that we do need to rely on generous people coming from abroad to help us.
And you need to pay doctors well enough that they don't go to Australia.
Yes.
Yeah, and junior doctors also.
Yeah.
There's threats of strikes there. And just before we go, I'm going to mention it again. It's the front page of The Observer. We only have 15 seconds, but my absolute favourite person in the entire world, Sir David Attenborough, has teamed up with Prince William to talk about the trouble in our oceans. So it's a wonderful front page.
One of the reasons why
we'll have to leave it there. We've done it again.
A show of military might and menace.